to discuss, where are we at? Here we are, we're on this page. Cannatech Catalyst, and to lead us in this discussion, all the way from Toronto, Canada, the king of Loosh. Let's hear it for Alex Revich, everybody. Alex Revich.
Thank you. What's up, everyone? So, some people call me the mayor of marijuana, but king of Loosh will be acceptable. Although Mr. Loosh is up there in the audience, so don't want to steal his thunder. What's up, everyone? How's everyone doing? Come on, ICBC. Let me hear you. Yeah. Yes, very awesome to be here. We did a panel yesterday, another one today with these great folks to my left. I'm going to introduce myself quickly. My name is Alex Revich. I am been doing this now since 2017 when we first started the ICBC in Berlin. Before that, I helped start the Lift Expo and worked with a lot of different cannabis companies in Canada that I started. But very happy to say that I'm now running the ICBC with Alex Rogers and the awesome team here at ICBC. Quick shout out to Alex Rogers and the team. Quick round of applause for ICBC putting this thing on. It's amazing. And now I'm working at a contract manufacturer where we make edibles all across Canada, which I'm very excited to be touching on with some innovation with these great panelists to my left. Why don't they do an introduction? Tell us who you are and how you ended up in this crazy cannabis world, starting with Peter.
Thanks, Alex. Alex and I go way back, so this is great to be on a panel here. Peter Mahalik, the CRO at Green Tank. Green Tank has been around for over a decade now almost, and we supply the global cannabis industry with vape hardware. But most recently, we actually invented a brand new atomization technology known as quantum vape technology, which goes very far away from the traditional types of heating tech that you see in classic vaporizers, which is a massive category in other parts of the world, especially in North America, following typically flower in most markets. So excited to tell you a little bit about that tech here tonight, but really the goal and the focus of it was to create a safer, a better performing experience for consumers through the use of this technology.
David Sandelman here, Cannatech, also Vermont Dry and Cure Technology. I'm here totally by accident. Developed the technology for the cheese industry, for making cheese caves, because people try and make cheese anywhere in the world, any time of the year now. And after developing that, that led to charcuterie. And then we said, hey, what about a cannabis flower that needs to be dried? Same as cheese or meat, where you want to get free available water and get to shelf stability. And we did some trials, and people said, this is some of the finest flour I've ever produced. So from there, we started our adventure to understand why people were saying it is some of the best flour they've ever had. And it turned out to be trichome retention, and we're getting into cuticles and ruptured trichomes. So we're really bringing now science to what up until now for the industry has been repurposed comfort cooling equipment, air conditioners and dehumidifiers, because that's all that was known, and back it up with real science, and we're making some good headway in the industry.
All right. Awesome. Earl.
Yeah, I'm Errol. I'm co-founder and head of R&D of Baconex, which is short for Berlin Cannabis Extraction. We have a facility here in the city where we produce extracts from medicinal cannabis, and we supply that as an active ingredient to pharmacies who make formulations out of the product and supply it to patients on prescription of a doctor. Because that's how the industry works here in Germany. And yeah, I'm originally a food process engineer from Wageningen in the Netherlands, which is an agricultural university. I invented an extraction technology fresh out of university, and in 2014 Bedrocan asked me if I can extract cannabinoids, and we could. We got some really nice results. And yeah, but in 2014 not a lot was happening, so we shelved those results, and when things started boiling at your side of the ocean, and we picked it up again, and we seemed to have something very interesting with it. I'll tell a bit more about later. And yeah, that eventually ended up in our factory here in Berlin, Adlershof.
Yeah, and they're boiling all right. They're definitely boiling. But Charlie.
Hey, I'm Charlie Wong from United States. And our company actually is called Canvedo. We're in Las Vegas. If you guys next time in MJBizCon, make sure to visit us. And first of all, I wanted to thank all the ICBC who gave us this opportunity. And this is certainly a great conference. I was here last year. Really enjoyed the meeting, the conference, and the environment. Where I came from? Well, I started as a technologist. I got my PhD in electrical engineering. I've been doing mostly semiconductor, fiber optics, mainly in the optoelectronics business. And how do I ended up here? Because when as an optoelectronics expert, I spent a lot of time on the LED business. And guess what? LED, became trying to find an application for cannabis grow, and that's how I ended up. Basically understand how this industry going. And I was in Las Vegas 2016, the first year when Nevada passed the medical and also recreational law, and then started getting involved from the technology side. And then time moves on. I was like, okay, understand the whole value chain, and ended up in this business doing manufacturing of CBD ingredients. So we're currently CGMP certified, and we do 5,000, 8,000 kilograms per month of a CBD isolate. That's where I am.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Quick round of applause for our panelists. Give them a little energy to get this thing started. We're going to be talking about some innovation, and innovation is so important to cannabis, like it is for any industry, especially in cannabis, as we're trying to increase our revenues, we're trying to decrease our costs, which are constantly climbing, and also we're trying to differentiate ourselves from our competitors with crazy marketing restrictions. So we always have to be very innovative to help with all those. So with that in mind, how would you, and who wants to start us off, how would you see technology as important to the cannabis industry and for your particular business? Maybe Peter, if you start us off.
Sure.
I know quantum vaping is such a hot topic currently. And
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. I mean, listen, guys, like we're in a consumer packaged goods industry, right? Our goal is to delight and deliver a fantastic product to the end consumer. It's all it's about for everybody, no matter where you are in the value chain, whether you're a retailer, a grower, or somebody like us that supplies hardware to brands. One thing that we identified very early on, doing what we do, is that there were limitations in the technology that the consumers were using in the vape hardware. Show of hands, who has vaped here before or uses a vaporizer? Anybody? Okay, so there's some good folks in the crowd that understand, what we're talking about. Typically, hardware in the industry right now is ran with a ceramic heating element, an atomizer. And there's a lot of shortcomings that come with that. But typically what you see from the consumer side, is very quick degradation of performance, of flavor, of that experience, that harshness that you'll get. And we wanted to eliminate that. So we looked at a peripheral industry. We actually tapped the semiconductor space, Charlie. And we want to try and get some inspiration from that sector and see how we can apply what they're doing there to improve our sector and our business. And truly, we wanted to eliminate a lot of the inefficiencies that we found in ceramic atomization and create a repeatable, something that could be manufactured, could be process-driven, could be consistent, could be clean and safe, fully biocompatible materials that are ran through a process, through a production facility. That was most important to us, to deliver on that consumer experience and give something back to the consumers that are buying these products and would get the performance that they're looking for. So we launched that in 2024 and are now commercializing it. And our goal is to, in the next 5 years, is to really power every single vaporizer that's in the market, whether it's in the vertical of cannabis, whether it's tobacco-driven, pharmaceutical down the line, where you could actually take drugs through a vaporizer. Our goal is to be able to power every vaporizer with this new clean technology. That's a massive competitive advantage, of course, to your point, Alex, but most importantly, it's a huge differentiator, and it's very important for that end consumer.
Oh, very cool. Errol?
Yeah, so in 2014, my vision when I made the first extracts, my vision has been to make an extract that's representative for the strain we're extracting and to make it suitable for pharmaceutical purposes. So for that, you need standardization and scalability. And you can only do that with technology, right? So therefore, it has been an essential lifeline since the beginning of the company. And still, like, you need quality control, you need to produce. So technology plays a very important role in it.
Yeah, we're on the flower side where I think still about half consumption is in flower, whether it's in pre-rolls of flower that's being sold. And it's one of the last areas in the industry where technology hasn't been really explored in LED lighting, nutrients, genetics, all kinds of research has gone in there. And yet the dry cure, the second half of growing the flower, so many facilities, they grow amazing plants, but you're only halfway there. You can totally destroy it on the post-harvest, how you dry and cure it. And the state of the industry currently has been repurposed air conditioners and dehumidifiers for removing moisture from the flower. And if you think about using a dehumidifier, it's rated in liters per day. It's just going to keep sucking the water out of the product. So that's why they call it dry rooms. And then someone has to, with touchy-feely generally, when do we pull it out of the dry room so it doesn't get over-dried? And then they move it into what they call the cure space. And then in the cure space, they wind up doing rituals like burping, because in case they pulled it out of the dry space too early and there was still free available water, which is measured with water activity, not too many facilities have water activity meters, so there's a lot of guesswork. We're applying science to it, control of vapor pressure, equalization of vapor pressure between the room, the flower, to get out the free available water, get the product to a shelf-stable condition at a 0.6 water activity, and then allow it to cure so you have really high-quality, smokable flower. And so we're applying technology there and eliminating the old guesswork and repurposed heating, cooling equipment.
Very cool. Charlie?
Yeah, I was just really appreciate what just all summarized about the technology. I just want to add a little bit on top of that. During my whole career, I've been involved in for the cannabis part. I've been dealing with the cultivation and also some of the recently now getting into the extraction and distillation isolation for ingredient manufacturing. I always feel like the technology is really to get this business going and save your cost, save mainly labor, and more importantly, is give you the so-called reliability and the consistency of your process. And for example, in our extraction facility or refinement facility, we actually using industry standard PLC technology for all the temperature, vacuum, and all the process parameter control, so we can basically optimize that and make it repeatably. And also we can remotely monitor. But when I sit here, I can check my cell phone, see what's my process, what my system's running, and how that works. So this is, I think technology will help all the entrepreneurs to turn the ideas into money, right? That's all we are going after.
And that's very important. And you're known as this Mr. Technology guy. You've been doing technology for a while. Can you give an example of some ways that you've learned from your past how technology has helped that you're using today? And I'm going to ask the other panelists the same question.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. Well, I was joking, technology is my middle name. Being a Chinese, typically we just have first name and last name. We don't give middle name, so I give myself technology middle name. But anyway, one of the examples is, I would just actually mention that very briefly a moment ago about our distillation process, to say the reason, I can sit here, I still know what's our process going on now. If there's any problem, is because when we got the first system, it was fully manual. I had to have my operators, standing by the machine, checking on basically the gear pump, what is the frequency. It's a VFD device. For those of you who probably know already, what is a VFD? Is a variable frequency device. And it helps you to basically to save the energy. And in the meantime, and I also have to watch the vacuum. And so the guy is standing there and sending me a message, say, oh no, it's 10 millitorr now. How do I deal with this? And so when we actually use that to develop the whole process, here's the key. If you want to automate, you want to do apply the technology, especially the ones that's proprietary for yourself, you do want to have your process frozen. You do want to know you have a bottom line process that works for you, and then you do the expansion. That's what we did. We set up the first system, and then we just set up, and then we expand, putting a second system by purchasing standard machines, but adding all those engineering components, technology components that allow us to use existing technologies. Because none of them is innovation. None of them is like, creating, it's like, none of them is like brand new technology. It's just have to apply all the other technologies already existing in the other industry and use that for your business. And here I am.
Here you are, here in Berlin. David, I know you touched on it briefly. How does going your lessons in cheese equal cannabis? I'm sure a lot of people are surprised when you say that.
Well, it has to do with getting a shelf-stable product, getting rid of free available water so that you no longer have mold, bacteria, or microbes growing. And Charlie just raised a good point about technology and making money. And it's funny, in the post-harvest, so much of it is left today still too touchy-feely, when to pull it out of the dryer room, when to burp it. And we go into facilities and see them losing 5, 7, 8% of their top-line revenue because they're over-drying their flour. Meanwhile, they're beating up their cultivators, we need more, and then they're just blowing it out the window by over-drying their product. So they're losing top-line revenue by over-drying it. The quality of the product for the consumer is less desirable when it's over-dried. It's a harsh smoke. So there's all kinds of ways that when this is properly done, using technology, using remote monitoring to see what's going on, it's a win-win-win several ways.
I think my story starts where yours ends. So you're doing your best to create this fantastic natural product. And then the next step is to make extracts out of it. It's for us, if you want to make different application forms than just smoking or vaping. So when you did your best to minimize heat load during curing, then the next step would be also in extraction processing to minimize the heat load. And a typical extraction process is it's a crude extraction. And then you have to add ethanol, and you have to freeze it, and you have to filter it, and then you have to evaporate the ethanol out of it. Again, adding a heat load after the extraction, it also has a heat load. And then you need to distill it, and then you lose these valuable terpenoids that you have to recover and put in again. So my journey has been, like since the beginning, to keep everything in, to minimize heat load during the entire process, and also during extraction, look at things like vapor pressure, right? And it's not just temperature and time. It's also convection, like what's the airflow over it, and what's the vapor pressure of the environment? How can you keep these terpenoids in? So and then you need to know what you're doing, and you need then to find the right equipment. And if you're in the pharmaceutical world, it needs also to be qualifiable, and then you need to validate the process. Yeah. So you continuously, in every step, you have to know what you're doing and find the right solution.
Everything sounds a lot easier than it is, and that's one thing I find in cannabis, especially when you're talking about technology. And the only thing I would like to add, like at Lush, we're very big on innovation. We created Keurig coffee pods with cannabis. We make a hash hot chocolate, hash instant coffee. When we realized not everyone had a Keurig, we found a way to create a flip top so then you can just pour it into a cup. So you got to keep evolving, keep innovating. I'm also an advisor with a company called Zentrella, which I know Peter knows. They create an EEG headband that measures brain waves and tells you when you get high, how high you get, and for how long. And research this is an innovation in research. I know Peter is working with them, and he'll talk about that. And we're also going to talk about how do we work with universities and governments, because obviously funding research is very expensive, and it would be nice if we all had that money, or if investors were throwing so much money at us that we didn't know what to do with, and we used it for research. But unfortunately, that's not the case, and we have to work with universities and governments. So Peter, maybe you want to kick us off, maybe mention what you're doing with Zentrella as an innovative research, and if you work with universities and governments as well.
Yeah, for sure, and we'll touch on the government piece first. Governments to us is so important. Everybody knows where vape has come from and where it's heading, and the journey that we've seen, especially in the U.S. and North America. It's so important to understand where the regulators are, moving the dial, and where they want to see, vape, something that's so heavy compliance-driven and mandated. Hence our innovation and how we're trying to develop the safest way of vaporizing extract in all categories. But it's a great segue to Zentrella. Zentrella a fascinating Canadian company. They actually got their start by wanting to develop the equivalent of a breathalyzer for cannabis. So, if you get pulled over by the police, you could do a breathalyzer right on the spot and see whether you're intoxicated. So they got funding from the government of Canada for that because, again, federally legal. We actually have the only federally licensed R&D facility in our office in Canada that has ever been granted and awarded to a vape hardware company. So we do a lot of really interesting sensory studies on our own. But we commissioned Zentrella when we developed this new technology because we wanted to see the effects of what's actually happening in the body when somebody vaporizes the quantum or uses a quantum heating chip to vaporize extract versus using antiquated ceramic technology. So, they came in, they had a bunch of subjects, they put EEG helmets on their heads to see how the brainwaves were reacting, and they collected a ton of information. And what was interesting is, they found that with the new technology, again, in the spirit of being more efficient and creating better bioavailability of the extract, subjects were actually they were reaching their onset 20% faster, and they were hitting their peak onset 35% faster with the new tech, which, to your point, again, is a huge competitive advantage and a major differentiator, for us. So, technology, innovation generally drives delighting the consumer. I'm a commercial guy. I'm nowhere near as smart as the folks sitting to the left of me. But from my perspective, if we could delight and add more value to the consumer, that's a huge win in our books.
And it's important that commercial guys work with the science guys. Everyone has to work together. All of this makes a good company. It's not one or the other. I've seen that mistake before. Some of the work you've done with research, with universities and different governments. Errol, you want to touch on that?
Yeah, well, one of the funny stories about our history is when we made CBD oil out of industrial hemp here, novel food regulations changed, so it wasn't allowed to do that here anymore in Europe. But around the same time, we got government innovation for funding for innovation, because the EU has many programs to stimulate innovation within the community, and cannabis has a part in it. So so there, like when you use technology, you use innovative technology, and you provide solutions to the European community, there's funding available. Other side of working together with universities is like we're chemists and process engineers and pharmacists, of course. So we try to create a product that's as stable as possible. But what it does in the body, that's not our cup of tea. Yeah, therefore we need clinical specialists, medical doctors, people in that research field that we need to collaborate with to now, and we see that as a next step for the company now that the product is there and it's being prescribed magistrally now by physicians, and pharmacies are supplying it. It's in German it's called Rezepturarzneimittel, and the next step will be to generate clinical proof and to have real medicines for specific applications, because that will result in large-scale application by physicians, because now they really have to understand what's the product, right? So they have this patient that has pain, ask if they can use cannabis. Then they look at the pharmacy and they say 100 different kinds. They don't know what to choose, so they stop. Like, it's too difficult. Yes. And once you have a medicine with a claim, then it's easy. Then it's just like a flowchart where to prescribe. And you of course need to consider side effects, etc., and drug interactions, these kinds of things.
Yeah, you got to make it easy for the doctors. They went to medical school for 4 years or whatever. They never learned anything about this. You got to make it super easy for them. They're not going to go back to school and learn. Some of them will, but the majority won't. So.
Yes. So therefore, with these clinical physicians, with these physicians, like in a research setting, you need to generate the proof.
Yeah, and just make it easy for them. That's, I think, very important. Proof and make it easy. Charlie or David, any experiences with working with universities or governments to get any funding for any research?
Well, being in the U.S.,
yeah,
forget about federal funding. It's just that just doesn't exist.
You're lucky to be able to be alive.
Yes, so you got to then do private funding to research organizations. We do a lot of work with the Cannabis Research Coalition, which is a private group of PhDs and various, plant biology and things like that. And that's how we get our work done. And I just want to make sure everyone realizes we're all here for one thing. And that's the trichome. The trichome's the factory of the chemicals and everything we're working with, and it's all about trichome preservation.
No, you're absolutely right, and that's another topic we were talking about backstage about biosynthesis and making cannabinoids using these chemical processes. It all comes down to these cannabinoids. I think people forget they love the plant and the smell and the look, but it all comes down to the trichomes. I know I hate to kind of say it like that. Sometimes it sounds kind of so cold to look at it like that, but that's the truth. Charlie, I know you're in the States as well. Have you had any luck getting any type of funding for any research that you're doing? Maybe from universities or anything like that, or you just kind of do it on your own?
Well, in the current business, doing hemp and CBD manufacturing, we don't do anything with universities because it's all manufacturing. The only time we deal with the government is about the permitting. We have to just spend a lot of time to convince them this is safe, and we're basically meeting all the codes requirements. That's the only time. And the other time is trying to join the lobbyist group, right? For especially the federal, like David mentioned. The federal now still considers this, and the current administration promised to all the voters that they're going to change, but nothing's going to happen because they're so busy doing something else.
Yes.
But in my previous life, I did deal with a lot with universities, and especially when I did vertical farming business for the vegetable growth and leafy greens. We did a lot of SBIR, similar to what you just mentioned, small business innovative grant, and also STTR, small business transfer grant, and then something like that. That really helped, especially for startups, for you to get to into the business. Yeah, that's super helpful.
No, and that's very cool. And one thing in this cannabis industry, and we've all been here long enough, people pitch you on stuff all the time, but they don't really have the research to back it up. I'm working with this one company called Capsule. They do liposomal emulsification, and they actually have research behind it. So many people have pitched emulsification technologies before, but it's also subjective of like, oh, it's way better. Okay, what's way better? So this is always kind of funny, and where research comes into play so that you can make these claims rather than just kind of talk and hope that people are just too stoned to notice whether you're telling the truth or not. But we couldn't do an innovation panel and talk about technology innovation without talking about AI. Obviously, that's like such a hot topic right now. What are your thoughts on kind of AI? How does it affect your own personal business? And what do you see for it for the cannabis industry? Who wants to kind of kick us off? Who wants to chat AI? Sure. You want to kick us off?
I'll start. For us, it's really in the production process, right? So AI, we're actually using it actively in being able to decipher and improve yield rates because we're running our chips on manufacturing process. They're literally coming off the line the same way. Again, the semiconductor industry, same way that it operates. We have to scrutinize everything with very complex, expensive machinery and ensure that the quality is up there. So we use AI and very expensive sensors and cameras to be able to decipher that, and help us bring up yield rates, which cuts cost.
Right. That's very exciting. Anyone else have some experience with AI and how it could affect them? I think you wanted to say something, Errol?
Yeah, so on the one hand, I'm a very traditional process engineer that I think will stick to the basics. On the other hand, I really believe like this is the step like from computer to internet and now to AI. Like I'm already afraid of the AI god coming to kill humanity. Like so quick, everything is changing.
Like Skylink from Terminator.
There are many other documentaries or sci-fi movies, however you want to call them, made about this. But I envisioned always at some point when Internet of Things was becoming a thing, that there is you have inline sensors in your entire production process. Let's say from the starting material that comes into the end product. You have these inline sensors, like you can measure temperature, but maybe with infrared you can measure THC concentration of the biomass that's automatically being fed into the factory, and you get real-time data through the entire process. So if the THC varies or the terpenoids, automatically the entire process adapts to it. And for this you need models like that learn and also adapt from it. So yeah, and again, it's not a good thing for humanity because we get even more automation. But it's very, from a technical point of view, it's very fascinating to. I think this is now possible. If you're like a company, I read that DSM Firmenich, for example, yeah, they have so much data, they can do this already, right? So yeah, I think this for really manufacturing companies and then chemical companies or food companies or pharmaceutical companies, like this is really a future.
Yeah, for sure. We can't be scared of it. We need to embrace it. Much like many things, everyone throughout time.
Say thank you to ChatGPT when they...
Yeah. Sometimes say thank you. And I actually did. It's kind of weird. I actually thanked ChatGPT, and it was kind of weird, like thanking a computer. I was like, wait, what am I doing? This is not even a person. Why am I thanking you? Anyway, sorry. Charlie, you wanted to add something?
Sure, absolutely. Of course, always just, said about the AI is that we benefit from it. But keep in mind, all of us, including everyone here, actually contributing to the benefit of the AI, meaning to the solution of the AI, right? Because Aaron, you mentioned about the data. Before AI become a real thing, when ChatGPT rolled out in December 2023, everyone was talking about big data. Everyone was talking big data. Everyone was talking about the cloud. Everyone was talking about about the algorithm. Because truly, today where we are for the AI status, the AI technology, it's all built on that big data and the algorithm. We all learned, human beings have learned from all the failure stories, all success stories, and that's how AI can help us today, right? One of the particular things I think that especially will help cultivators in cannabis industry is to share your information, share your details, how you make a decision when you see something happen, whether it's a nutrition uptake affecting your business, affecting the growth, the phenotyping of your plants, and share that data, and that will help everyone, and eventually